The Sandbox game explained why it's valuable. Now that's the topic of discussion in today's video. Now I'll be giving you 3 legitimate reasons, focusing on the land in particular, real estate, and the expected foot traffic this metaverse has already. Not soon, not later down the road, but already. So buckle up, because I'm about to drop some alpha right now. So without further ado, let's go bank that coin. It's the crypto lifestyle, baby. Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Francis and I'm a metaverse landlord. We own metaverse real estate across the most sought after metaverses in high foot traffic locations. And the reason why I make these videos is because a lot of people do not understand this technology, and I don't want you to be one of them. This is a projected $1 trillion market, and I do not want you to miss it on the next big boom. So if that sounds interesting to you, smash that subscribe and that bell notification button so you don't miss anything. Let me first give you a brief introduction to what Sandbox game or what Sandbox Metaverse is before we get into the actual land and the expected foot traffic this metaverse will have, okay? But before we do that, make sure you check out my last Sandbox video where I demonstrated for you how you can make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars right now in Sandbox with no money, okay? So do check that out. Okay, so Sandbox was first a 2D mobile game in 2012 where users could pretty much build their own virtual worlds and experiences directly on their mobile devices. Now, this was during the peak of the mobile computing and also the mobile internet era, which made a lot of sense at the time. But fast forward 5 years later, in the year 2017, however, Sandbox decided to enter the blockchain industry by launching a 3D decentralized version of their game on the Ethereum network. This is where everything changed because Sandbox ironically started to think out of the sandbox when they introduced 3 unique powerful features to their new blockchain P2E decentralized gaming experience, such as voxedits, which builds voxel game assets. They also have a marketplace for gamers to buy and sell their own created assets. And last but certainly not least, their powerful game maker tool, where complete 3D interactive P2E games can be constructed and shared with a very simple, no code required drag and drop interface. This now means gamers aren't limited to playing a game that was solely owned and designed by the company, collecting majority or if not all of the revenue. But instead, users can now customize their own experiences in a 3D decentralized format, which allows the massive fan base of gamers that they created since 2012 the ability to actually store, trade, monetize their own creations through blockchain technology. Now, fast forward to today in 2022, Sandbox is leading the way in the blockchain-based metaverses with land prices in the millions of dollars. And this is in large part due to a couple of things, okay? Number one, similar to the physical world, land and real estate is limited, hence always in high demand. We're talking about the world's most safest and lucrative asset class, guys, but the similarities are not only bounded to the physical world. Blockchain-based metaverses, and that's very important, blockchain-based metaverses have very similar attributes to that of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, where only a finite supply of lands, plots, and or estates exist. For example, Sandbox only has a total of 166,464 lands that will ever exist. That is scarcity and investing 101. When there is more demand than there is actually supply, especially with real estate, well, you know what happens. Prices do pop. Point number 2. Let me use some real world examples. And this arguably should be point number 1. But let me use some real world examples with the state of New York and the state of California, which has some of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, high net worth neighborhoods and cities in the entire world, whether that be for residential or commercial use. So what makes the likes of, let's just say, Beverly Hills, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York City so darn expensive? Well, highly dense populated states or cities, especially with high net worth individuals, brands, and or companies residing there, will have a direct positive financial gain on the property itself. Just that alone. Okay, now for example, who lives in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City, and Manhattan? Well, we have celebrities like Travis Scott, Ariana Grande, and Snoop Dogg, all living in California. Pay attention because I'm getting to a bigger point here. The same is true for businesses who aren't set up in highly dense populated cities. For example, Warner Music Group headquarters is in New York, New York. Ubisoft has their North American headquarters situated in California. Gucci has most luxury outlet stores both in California and New York, but more notably, their actual headquarters is deployed in New York City, and that's their North American headquarters, of course. Their first luxury store outlet was built in 1950 in New York City. Are you starting to see the picture I'm trying to paint here for you? Is it clear enough? Well, if not, let me tell you, it's like 1950 right now in the metaverse, and Sandbox is like the state of California and New York City. Sandbox land is in super duper high demand with a finite or limited supply, broskies. And those same very brands and businesses I just mentioned to you aren't messing around. They're building their own virtual headquarters in Sandbox. This is crazy. As I said, Sandbox is the California and New York of metaverses, literally. We got the real Warner Music Group in Sandbox, as you can see. Okay, the real Gucci as well in Sandbox, as you can see. The real Ubisoft in Sandbox, as you can see. Binance, the real Gemini Exchange, whose headquarters is in New York City, by the way. The real OpenSea, whose headquarters is in San Francisco. And the list truly does go on, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go with that list. Point number 3. I really have to drive this point home because this is the expected foot traffic, adoption, and or users Sandbox will have, and it's crazy. So sadly, if you build an amazing product like, let's just say, a blockchain, or in this case, a metaverse, and don't have much users or adoption, it's pretty much worthless. But that's not the case here with Sandbox, ladies and gentlemen. You see, most people don't get this particular point, but Sandbox is not just one game like most P2E games out there who struggle with user adoption. Sandbox is like a big universe that hosts many other planets, or in other words, Sandbox is a broader part or a multitude of a large pool of games, and it's hundreds of other P2E games who already have their own communities, clients, and user base. Now we couple that with the businesses we touched upon earlier, Sandbox's own following user base since 2012, transitioning into the 3D blockchain version of Sandbox from the 2D mobile version. Man, this thing is going to be an absolute beast. And when it drops and goes live later this year with enormous amounts of traffic at launch, this isn't hyperbole, fluff, or me talking smack or just straight out of my ass, okay? According to Cointelegraph.com, Sandbox exceeds over 2 million users during the launch of their Alpha 2 season, which took place earlier this month. For a freaking Alpha 2, that's extremely impressive, I have to admit, and that number is only going to grow from here. So the next time you're asked, why the heck is Sandbox land so valuable or so expensive? Just tell that person, Sandbox is the Beverly Hills of the metaverse. And let me tell you, it's 1950 right now, and we're witnessing a massive land grab happening right before our very eyes. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope it helped you understand this a bit better, because in my next video, I'll be showing you how to buy Sandbox land the OG hustler way. So you know what? There really isn't much left to say other than, till the next video, you're on your own. Later.